Hello, today we're going to take a look at one of the logic games that's tested on the LSAT. As you know, on the LSAT you will be looking at 4 different logic games, and each of the games comes in clusters of questions. So you may have 5 to 7 questions per cluster, in which you'll get a set of facts, you'll get some conditions, and then you'll answer questions based on that set of facts. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to take a look at everything. Read everything. Read not just the fact pattern, which you will read multiple times, but you want to take a look at the questions as well. Look at the questions, look at the sub-questions, look at the answers that they provide. Just take a look at everything so that you have a better understanding of the type of question, the type of logic game that they're asking you about, that they're testing you on. And that way you can best figure out what the appropriate way of attacking that question is. Or attacking those clusters of questions. So here, presuming that you've already read through the questions, the best way of attacking this type of logic game is to create a chart. There's a lot of rules, there are a lot of conditions, and in this type of fact pattern, what you'll find is that each of the questions contains a different type of rule, a new condition that you have to apply to the previous set of conditions and rules and facts. So the best way of keeping all of that in mind, to not forget, is to create a chart and create a key or a legend so that you can easily refer to each of the rules. You want to boil them down simply so that you know how to apply the things, and again, not to forget some of the conditions that were previously mentioned, because it's going to get confusing. So let's go ahead and do that. The question reads: a small software firm has 4 offices numbered 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we just want to go ahead and start that chart. We have 1, 2, 3, and 4. Each of these offices has exactly 1 computer and exactly 1 printer. Computer and a printer. So we'll go ahead. This is our grid. This is our grid. This is what we're going to be filling out. Each of these 8 machines was bought in either 87, 88, or 89. So this is the universe of options that we have. 88 or 89. Meaning that every one of these grids, whatever we plug in, will either be from 87, 88, or 89. These are the 3 choices that are possible here. The 8 machines were bought in a manner consistent with the following conditions. Alright, so these are the rules now. We're going to get some more rules. And again, we want to be sure that we're keeping track of everything. Computer in each office was bought either in an earlier year than or in the same year as the printer in that office. This is a rule that we want to boil down so that we remember. So here I would write computer is less than or equal to P, meaning that the computer was purchased in a year earlier than, less than, or the same year as the printer. I'm going to refer to this rule quite a bit. The computer in Office 2 and the printer in Office 1 were bought in the same year. So here the shorthand could be 2C equals 1P. This way we know that if we find the value of 2C, we can automatically fill in the box for 1P, and vice versa. The computer in Office 3 and the printer in Office 4 were bought in the same year. So here too, we have the computer in Office 3 equals the printer in Office 4. Next, the computer in Office 2 and the computer in Office 3 were bought in different years. Here we have a different condition. So 2C does not equal 3C. And finally, the computer in Office 1 and the printer in Office 3 were bought in 1988. So now we can start to fill in the grid. So we have the computer in Office 1, 88, the printer in Office 3, 88. Now this isn't the end of it. We can continue based on these rules. We can actually fill in a little bit more. We'll at least be able to narrow down each of the grid boxes to know what is not possible in these boxes. So starting with 3P, because of the rule C is less than or equal to P, that means that 3C, the computer in Office 3, has to have been purchased either in the same year, 88, or the year before, 87. It cannot have been purchased in 89. So here we would just make a notation, 87 or 88. Because we know based on this rule that 3C equals 4P, we can go ahead and fill out this grid, 87 or 88. And once again, based on rule number 1, we know that the computer in Office 4 has to have been purchased in either 87 or 88. It cannot have been purchased in 89, otherwise this rule, this condition would not satisfy. We also know, let's go back here, 1C, if 1C is 88, that means that the printer in Office 1 has to have been purchased in either 88 or 89. Because again, this computer has to have been purchased in a year earlier or the same as the computer or the printer in Office 1. We know 1C and 2P, or 2C and 1P are the same, so here we can fill in 88 or 89. And once again, the printer here cannot have been purchased in 87, otherwise this condition would not be satisfied, so this one is also 88 or 89. And now that we've filled out the grid, or at least narrowed it down a little bit, we can go ahead and start to answer the questions. The questions will give you a new condition to work with, and by adding a different condition or changing one of the conditions, you can start to apply all of these rules. Just as a quick aside, something that might help you in practicing this type of question, and this is something that you can do on your commute. It's a very easy game. It's called Sudoku. And you may have heard of Sudoku, but the goal and objective of Sudoku is to fill in a 9x9 grid with the digits 1 through 9, such that every row and every column, as well as each 3x3 grid, contains the numbers 1 through 9. So when you get a Sudoku grid, you will get some of the numbers filled in already. So similar to here, where we knew for sure the rule said 1C and 3P were 88. In Sudoku, you'll get some of the numbers already filled out, and similar to what we did here, you begin to narrow down the options. What are the things that can fill out some of these grids? If you have certain rules, how do they apply here? So Sudoku is a game that will help you with this kind of thing, with this kind of question. But let's take a look at question number 8. If the computer in Office 3 was bought in an earlier year than the printer in Office 3, then which of the following statements could be true? Just before we attack the question itself, we should note that the statement could be true means that the other statements must be false, right? Could be true. The best way of attacking a could be true question is not to try to get the correct answer, which of these A through E options is definitively correct. What you want to find is which of these A through E options are absolutely wrong, because 4 of them will be absolutely wrong when we apply the rule. So let's take a look at the rule. The computer in Office 3 was bought in an earlier year than the printer in Office 3. We know that the printer in Office 3 was purchased in 88, so that means for the purposes of this question only, the computer in Office 3 must have been purchased in 87. Now let's start to apply some of our rules here again. So 3C, if 3C was 87, that means that 4P must also be 87. And once again, if 4P is 87, then 4C must also be 87. Since the computer has to be purchased in the same year or an earlier year than the printer. So that must be 87. All right, so now let's take a look at some of the options that we have. Option A, the computer in Office 2 was purchased in 87. Obviously, 87 is not even an option. We can write that one off the bat. B, the computer in Office 2 was bought in 88. That is possible. We don't know yet. We don't have any reason to believe that that's not correct yet. So we'll save that one to the side and take a look at the rest of them. Option C, the computer in Office 4 was purchased in 1988. We know, based on our logical deductions, that 4C cannot have been purchased in 88. It must have been purchased in 87. And for the same reason, D and E are also incorrect. The printer in Office 4 was bought in 88. Nope, that's not true. And the printer in Office 4 was bought in 89. Also not true. Not even an option. So that means that the only thing that's left is option B, that the computer in Office 2 was bought in 88, because it's possible. The other ones were impossible. All right, let's take a look at question 9. Question 9 reads, which one of the following statements could be true? Once again, it's a could be true statement, which means that 4 of the questions, or 4 of the answers, must be wrong. The printer in Office 1 was bought in 87. That we know, not an option. It's not possible. B, the computer in Office 2 was bought in 87. Also not an option. We've already deduced that from the first set of facts. C, the computer in Office 3 was bought in 89. Also wrong. D, the printer in Office 4 was bought in 88. That is possible. Again, this red circle, this is just based on question 8. Without question 8, it could be either 87 or 88. We don't know. So D will set aside. E, the printer in Office 4 was bought in 89. 89 is not an option. So obviously the answer here is option D. All right, so moving on to then question 10. Question 10 reads, if as few of the 8 machines as possible were bought in 87, then what is the exact number of machines that were bought in 87? So here, let's get rid of this. Here what we're trying to do is we're trying to figure out which scenario we can apply such that there are the fewest number of 87 machines. So here we can start with what we already know. We know that for sure the printer in, taking a step back, when we take a look at all of the options, we see that option E says 4. 4 is impossible. We don't even have 4 choices. At most, it can be 3. So what we're trying to figure out is, of these 3, how many must be true? How many must be 87s? Okay, so now attacking the question, 3P is definitely 88, which means that if we do not want an 87, we can do 88. This computer can have been purchased in 88 and still comply with the rules. If, again, 3C is 88, that means that 4P must also be 88. Here, it can either be 87 or 88, but because we want the fewest number of machines to be 87, 88 still complies. 4C being 88 still complies with this rule. So based on that, we can have a scenario, we can have a fact pattern here where 0 computers were purchased in 1987. So the answer to number 10 would be A, 0. Moving on to question 11, if the computer in Office 4 was bought in 1988, then which of the following statements must be true? Here, we're adding a few more facts. There are some more logical deductions that we can make. So let me just go ahead and erase this since we're starting over. Okay, so here we have, if the computer in Office 4 was purchased in 88, which of the following must be true? If the computer in Office 4 was purchased in 88, then the printer in Office 4 must also have been purchased in 88. Why is that the case? Because of this condition, this first condition, that the computer has to be the same year or a year before. Because 89 is not an option, it must have been the same year. So that means 4P is definitely 88. Now 4P is definitely 88. Again, 4C must be 88. Now, if you'll remember, this is basically the same set of logical deductions that we came to for question 10. All right? But we can go on. So if 3C is then 88, and we know that 2C does not equal 3C, then we know that 2C must be 89. Since there are only two options, we know that 3C is 88, 2C must be 89. Now if 2C is 89, we know 2C equals 1P. We know that then 1P equals 89. So now once again, we've narrowed down the board. We figured out what we can figure out. So we know for sure that this is 1C is 88, 1P is 89, 2C is 89, 2P still up in the air, 3C is 88, 3P is 88, 4C is 88, and 4P is 88. So we've really narrowed down the board quite a bit. So let's take a look at the questions. Which of the following statements must be true? A, the printer in Office 1 was bought in 88. We know that's wrong. B, the printer in Office 1 was bought in 89. Now we know that that is correct. But to take a look at the other answers as well, C, the computer in Office 2 was bought in 88. We know that that's wrong. D, the computer in Office 3 was bought in 87. We know that that's wrong. E, the printer in Office 4 was bought in 89. 89 was not even an option for 4P. So based on the rules and based on our logical deductions, we know that the answer to question 11 must be B. We'll take a quick break here and come back to the class after our break.